I've had every type of belt. I've had leather belts made by Occidental. I've had the less expensive ones. I've had the canvas ones that they give you free from the lumberyard. Leather belts. I've worn suspenders, not worn suspenders, and I have gone back to this Diamondback that I've had again for 8, 9 years at this point as my favorite belt. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to your weekly dose of the Midweek Modern Craftsman podcast with me, Tyler Grace. Um, I I was looking at my blog that I wrote for this week, and it's my 20th blog, 20th podcast recording, and I'm still having fun with it. So that's good news. Not tired yet. Weekly podcast recording. 30, 45 minutes. They're pretty short, pretty quick. I'm still having fun with this. I'm still enjoying all of your feedback. It's been very positive, very supportive. So I'm going to keep at it. Um, that's the plan. um, I've been busy. By the time everyone hears this, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know at this point we're closing on some property a couple doors down from us to build a family home. Still working out how we are going to make that happen, but for the time being, we're just working on approvals prior to design. I got over there yesterday and started cleaning up the property a little bit. I spoke with the owner, and he said that's not an issue. So I mowed the field down, started taking care of some just basic cleanup over there. It's been sitting for quite a while, but my allergies are absolutely a mess. I'm dying. I don't know if you guys have had an exceptionally bad allergy year this year, but it's brutal. I've been testing myself actually for COVID, um, because one of my daughter's coaches ended up having it, and my allergies are so bad. I'm like, well, maybe it's not allergies. Maybe I have a COVID, but so far I'm clear on the COVID front. Just seasonal allergies that are exceptionally bad this year. Where we stand with the property right now, environmental has been out there, civil has been out there. Um, we did some soil borings and wetlands delineation through soil analysis so far, so that entire package is getting prepared for the EPA for submittals because that's going to take a long time. We've ordered a survey, so hopefully within the next week they'll be getting out there to survey the property. And next up will be septic design, and after that, basic house shop design. Moving along, the approval process will be a while with the EPA, prior to getting and the state prior to getting anything with our local municipality. So we expect probably about a year for approvals. It could be less. If it's less, amazing. If it's a year, the only thing that really hangs us up is we'll be paying interest payments on a loan where we kind of can't do any work. So that stinks, but I guess that's life. We know this is going to be a financial impact on us, being that we've been in our house for a handful of years. We refinanced and have an amazing mortgage rate right now. So we're going to be foregoing that with the new property, but hopefully interest rates stabilize at some point in the near future and we can refinance and get back on track. I think it's a financial investment. There will be a ton of sweat equity into this. So even if there is a higher interest rate, I think long term, it's a sound financial investment for us. Business opportunity, learning experience. So it's a good thing. We're excited. Very stressed, very anxious, but excited. So we're going to be creating a lot of content around that. There will be a lot of blog posts and podcast recording around that. Some partnerships that I'll be looking to get in place once we start sorting out design. So hopefully it'll be a lot of good content for you guys to digest. I will share my learning experiences, what I struggle with, and hopefully it's useful and serves of some value to you. Let's see what today's podcast is on. Give me one sec. All right. I'm not sure where I got this idea. Maybe I was laying in bed recently, but I was like, "Oh, that's a really good, easy way um, for me, like very straightforward blog post podcast that I can record." And it is what is in my tool belt. It sounds like it could be a show. I'm like, "Hey, let's play the game. What's in my tool belt?" But it's not. It's not a game. It's life. It's a blog post. Uh, I'm a remodeling contractor. I perform a lot of different duties. I am the type of person I like to have my tool belt on. If I don't have my tool belt on, I take stuff out of it. I put it down. I don't know where it is. I'm not productive. um, I sorry, I just got a text from my aunt regarding some sort of party, and she doesn't text me much, so I thought something was maybe wrong. Um, I have to wear my tool belt. So if I'm working, it really doesn't matter what it is. I mean, if I'm setting tile, I'm not wearing a tool belt. You know, you need a marker, a pencil, and a tape, maybe a speed square. But carpentry related tasks, um, if I'm doing minor electrical work, I like to wear a tool belt. Framing, carpentry, built-ins, even in my shop. I know a lot of people will just have a small pouch that they'll clip on or an apron. I just prefer to wear a tool belt. Setting cabinets, a lot of people don't like to wear a tool belt because they're afraid they're going to scratch the cabinets. I've worked with the tool belt on for so long. I'm very aware of my size spatially with the tool belt on. So I don't have an issue setting cabinets and doing finished trim work, working in a finished space with tool belts. If you do not, be very careful. You can drop stuff out of your tool belt. You can scratch stuff, bang into walls. But I'm a tool belt on kind of guy. So it's very important for me to have a comfortable tool belt, one that fits and not have too much in it. I also have to have enough in it that I'm not searching for things that I need. So I want to at least explain to you what I keep on my tool belt. If I'm doing a specialty task, I'll have some additional tools in there. But for the most part, day in and day out, when I'm doing carpentry related tasks, this is what is in my tool belt. First off, my tool belt is it's an older Diamondback. So prior to Connor purchasing Diamondback, and I know he had a partner initially, but prior to that, I forget the guy's name. It was this is so long ago that I may be making this up, but there was a guy and a girl. They were producing them in Alaska for a long time. For some reason, I keep thinking his name's Jim, but maybe it's not. Regardless, that's where I got my Diamondback belt from. So it's pre the new Diamondback, which I want to say I got my belt right at the end. So it was 2015. I think it was called a Raptor. It was basically their no frills. Let's see, 2015, 2016, I would have been 30. So it definitely wasn't my first belt. But 2015 is when I got it. Yeah. So at this point, the belt is 8 years old. It's a 6-inch belt. It's obviously canvas. I have some additional tool holders on there. But I like the belt. The only thing that I did change on it is back then they came with a plastic. They came with two different types of buckles. I went for the plastic buckle that clips together, similar to what Diamondback has now. But I ended up sending my belt to a tailor and getting them to install one of the metal Cobra buckles on there because they hold up a lot better. The other belt, sometimes you would accidentally bend over and push one of the little ears or the detents on them and my belt would fall off. So I do like the Cobra buckle a lot and it should last forever. Um, let's break this down. Pouches. I have a right hand pouch, a left hand pouch. The right hand pouch has a small pouch on the outside, an additional one inside of that, and then a couple of slots between the pouches that you could fit like sandpaper or a speed square. And then it has a couple of little sections that you could put nail sets, knives, some hoops and loops on the back, and then it has a little area, a little pouch up top near your hip, which a lot of people use for a tape measure. So on my right side, excuse me, real quick. On my right side, um, I have a hammer holster, which I keep a East Wing dead blow hammer in there. I use that way more than my normal hammer. It weighs more. I use it to bang lumber in place, trim in place, tap stuff that needs to be moved over. It just has a little more weight to it than my standard hammer. My standard hammer I really use for setting nails with the nail set, maybe pulling some nails out. Banging a nail or two, but generally I'm using my dead blow, and that's why it's in my hammer holster right up front because I want to be able to access that the most. I carry a 6-in-1 screwdriver, so inside the biggest pouch, there's one, two, three little sheath areas that you could put tools. So in one sheath, I have a set of Klein side cutters. I call them dikes. I use them for pulling electrical staples, cutting machine screws down, cutting the heads off of nails. And then I have a pair of horseshoe pliers, which are the smaller ones, and they are Nip-X. I had a pair of Craftsman ones forever that were just bigger, and I wanted to get a smaller pair. I use them primarily for pulling out um, nails that are left in trim or pulling nails out of trim, casing, baseboard that I'm reusing so they don't damage the wood or the wall as much. And then I also have a Stabila torpedo level. I've had a bunch of the less expensive torpedo levels. I got the Stabila. It's very heavy, heavy duty. It's well made. It's magnetic, and I really do like that one. So I'm brand loyal to that. I haven't tried every brand of torpedo level, but I do like their torpedo level. I recall it being somewhat expensive and not wanting to spend the money on it, but then when I did, I was really happy with it. Um, 6-in-1 screwdriver just floats around in that section. No brand loyalty there. I generally end up using it and hit the back of it with the hammer and break them, or trying to unscrew something, snap them. None of them seem to last for me, so I just buy whatever box store has what, and when I break it, I toss it. Inside that area, I also have an occidental plastic sheath that I want to say is for knives. It's basically to prevent whatever you're putting in there from poking your tool belt. So I use that to hold my pencils. I always have mechanical pencils, big mechanical pencils for finished carpentry, and then I have a framer's pencil in there, and then generally a Sharpie. Um, and then there's also a little circular section that I keep a scratch awl with a wooden handle. And I use that a lot of times for if I need to snap a chalk line, string line, I can just punch that in, or using that to break the foil on adhesive caulk gun silicone or caulk tube silicone. So I keep that all on me all the time. Ha, get it all the time. I don't know what brand that is. It's whatever works for you. I got a relatively small one that's not super bulky. What else is on that right hand side? Oh, I keep a utility knife up front, and I use a utility knife with a retractable blade. And the only one I like with the retractable blade, and I haven't used all of them, Lennox makes a really good one. Ergonomically, it's angled. The blades that they sell for them hold up really well, and it's super easy to change the blades. It doesn't it doesn't lock or unlock itself when you're using it. It's just a really safe blade. I think over the years I've been through one or two of them, but I have a handful of them that I've replaced them with. So I am somewhat brand loyal to that. I really like those Lennox knives. They're very easy, like I said, to change the blades in. Also, in that little pouch that's up near my hip, I keep a handful of different size wire nuts and machine screws. If I'm in the middle of doing something and I drop a screw, or there's a screw that's not working in an outlet, or I'm demoing something and I need some wire nuts, I like to have at least a few on me that I don't have to run out to my truck right away. So I keep a handful of them in that small pouch. That's pretty much it for the right hand side. It's a lot, but it I don't keep fasteners in there. I'll keep in the smaller little sleeves between the pouches. I'll keep let's see, some sandpaper. I usually slide my phone in there. But that's pretty much it for the right hand pouch. My phone lives on the right hand pouch when I'm using it. So onto the left hand pouch, which maybe it's a little bit different than my right hand pouch. I don't know. Yeah, it is because it has a sleeve for my um carpenter, my speed square. So it is different than, and it doesn't have the little individual sheaths that I put my pliers and torpedo level in. But it's the same thing as far as an outer pouch that's small, an inner pouch, and then the one little pouch that up top near my hip, which I keep my tape measure. So that's on my left hand side because I'm right handed. I'm marking with my right hand side. So I grab my tape with my left hand, pull a measurement, mark it with my right hand. So I keep my left on my my belt, or sorry, my tape on my left hand side. My tape is a Stanley brand tape, nothing fancy. They don't last that long. I have a Fat Max, I think now 25 foot. I don't need anything longer than that. I also keep in one of those small pouches or the small slot areas between the pouches. I keep a small Empire 6-inch combination square. Excuse me. um, I've been through two of these over the years. I would love a starret, whatever, starret. I would love a nicer one, but honestly, it lives in my tool belt. It gets nasty. There's dust and dirt, and for what I use it for, it's generally marking reveals, or if I'm string lining something, just a consistent measurement. I'm not really using it to mark angles, so I don't need it to be super accurate. So this inexpensive box store model fits my needs. Um, let's see. On the outer pouch, I keep just a handful of different size nails, drywall nails, a couple of framing nails, a couple of trim nails, and then a few different lengths of drywall screws, just random in there. There's no organization there. That is just so if I need one, I can use it. When I'm doing specific tasks, I will bring in my bins with screws, and they have individual containers that I'll pull out and I'll walk around with them. If I'm doing something for days on end, I'll end up dumping all of the screws out that are in my belt and just filling it with the specific screws that I need. But the fasteners take up a lot of space and they weigh a lot, so I try not to keep a ton in there at all time. I use the inside portions of my belt, like the bigger sections, for trash. So if I'm working or I cut something off of a screw, it always goes into my belt. If I'm not near a trash can, I don't want it to get on the floor. So the bottoms of them typically are filled up with nasty bits of different things that I have to clean out from time to time when I clean my belt. I equate cleaning a belt. It's a very pleasurable experience for me. I equate it to a woman when she cleans out her purse, where you just find all sorts of stuff in there that you forgot about, and you find things that you lost. And once you clean the belt out, you just feel like a new you. On this left hand side in that bigger area, I keep a flexible putty knife. I'll use that for filling nail holes, and also a lot of times if I'm trying to get in behind a piece of trim, depending on if I'm nailing it off or trying to remove something, a flexible putty knife, I can prevent damage to a wall and slide it in, and it'll contour the wall and not do damage. Then I can use my hammer or a nail puller and not do damage to drywall or trim. I also keep a stiff putty knife, which I use a lot of times to remove trim. I'll whack that into the whatever sort of joinery or joint there is, and then I'll use that to pry because it's nice and flat and it won't damage the trim. I use Blue Point, which is a brand. It's an automotive brand. Essentially, it's like Snap-on's beginner line, but they have a really good plastic handle that's not it doesn't break. It's not a fragile plastic. It's not flexible, but it's soft. So when you hit it with a hammer, it doesn't break. All the other putty knives I've had are this stiff plastic, and you hit it and it breaks, and then you're left with a putty knife that's just this metal handle. It doesn't work for me. So I use them as I beat them up. I put them on a grinding wheel and I grind them down shorter, and they last a few years. So that is definitely my brand of choice for putty knives, and stiff and flexible. Um, let's see what else is on my left hand side. Oh, I keep three different size nail sets, whatever brand you choose. I think right now I have Stanley, but I just keep three different sizes for setting trim nails that don't go in off the gun, or I hit something and get an errant nail placement. I think that's it for my left hand tool belt. Um, and then off the belt, so I have a few things that I hang off the belt itself. In the back, I have an Occidental leather hammer holster, and it's the one that drops down. So they have one that will go onto the back of your belt, and the metal loop is basically attached to the part that hangs from your belt. I have one where it's a leather hanger, and then the loop's a little bit lower. I've always liked that a little bit more. It just seems like it's easier for me to grab, not having to reach so high up on my back. um, my stiletto, I think it's a 10 ounce. It's a finish trim hammer, goes back there. I prefer the hickory axe handle, so it's curved. I've always liked that. I think I've replaced the handle on it once. I'll probably have to do it again now that I said that, knock on wood. But that hammer I've had with me since I started my business. It's very light. I don't use it a lot, so I do like the titanium. I haven't had any issues with it breaking, hitting different metals and different materials. But again, I don't use it a ton, so I like having a lighter hammer there just because I like to have it on me, and I'll save the weight with that. On the back right hand side of my belt, I have a little leather case that holds a Lee Nielsen low angle block plane. It's the little 102 bronze one. I really love that. There's a ton of different companies that make them. Stanley make nice planes. Veritas makes nice planes. I just like the bronze one. And I haven't had any issues with it. A lot of times the irons are what's really important with the plane, but I like keeping that on me. I can adjust scribes. I can adjust miters. It's just a really convenient little tool to have. And I do believe it has its place in every Finnish carpenter's tool belt. Off the back left side, off a hammer, a little loop, I have let's see, is that left side? I think it's left side. I have a stiletto titanium cat's paw. That was a splurge for me. I had the steel cat's paws. I think Eastwind makes them. They're just heavy and they're not that sharp. They're rounded. I got the stiletto one, and it has lasted me quite a long time. I haven't had any issues with them breaking either, even though they're titanium and they're light, so it's not adding a ton of weight to my belt. What else? What else? What else? Oh, on the left hand side, also I have a little Occidental leather holster that I carry a Starrett. I think that's how you say it. Starrett angle finder. So I have the aluminum one. It's light. It holds up well. It's really accurate. I know they sell plastic ones and they sell less expensive. I really like this one. I would buy it again. I haven't had any issues with it. It stays tight. It doesn't loosen up. It's light. It doesn't rust. If it gets wet, it's no issue. So I really like that brand for that. I think that's it as far as my tool belt goes. I like to have what I need on a daily basis. You're walking that fine line where I don't want my belt to be too heavy, but I also don't want to have to reach for tools all the time. So if I'm doing a specialty trade, if I'm doing trim work, I might have a laser tape in there. I might have a scribe in there. I might have at times a chalk line, a dry line, depending on the trade, but I do not keep them in there all the time. They live in my truck. or in a tool bin. And when I go to perform that trade, I will bring that onto my belt. I keep wood glue on my belt, but again, that's trade specific. I'm not keeping that stuff on my belt all the time. It's just too heavy to carry. Same goes for fasteners. Materials of belt, I've had every type of belt. I've had leather belts made by Occidental. I've had the less expensive ones. I've had the canvas ones that they give you free from the lumberyard. I've had one-sided a belt with a pouch on one side, um, canvas belts, leather belts. I have had Occidental adjustable belts. I've worn suspenders, not worn suspenders, and I have gone back to this Diamondback that I've had again for 8, 9 years at this point as my favorite belt. I really love the idea of a leather belt. There's something to be said for them. I have the old green leather Occidental that I love. The leather is heavy. It doesn't break in as well. They last forever, but for what I do, they're a little bit bulky and a little bit heavy, and they move around on my hips a lot. Suspenders have never really worked for me. I think if I stood up and I did maybe the trade where I'm standing or hanging, siding or something all day long, that may work, but bending up and over and adjusting the suspenders never really worked for me. And I also think a lot of times it winds up being harder on your back than hanging something off of your waist. So I've never been a huge suspender guy, but the only issue that I have with the canvas bags versus the leather bags is I use my bags to wipe my hands off. If I have caulk on my hands, if I have glue on my hands, adhesive, I don't wipe it on my clothes. Silicone, I wipe it on my tool belt. um, so that stuff does not come off the canvas. It sticks to the canvas, and then you really have to peel it off. With the leather, you could just shove a putty knife in there, and it peels off clean, and you're back to a fresh looking belt. With the canvas, it doesn't come off so easily, and then your canvas belt becomes very stiff and very rigid. So that's the only complaint that I've had with them. As far as abrasion and durability, I haven't had any issues. They hold up well. I haven't had any punctures. You could get them repaired if need be, but mine has held up pretty well. So I don't have any real complaints with them, and I do prefer them to leather as far as wearability, durability, and just how light they are. My advice to young men and women when you're looking at tool belts, I know growing up, you'd go to Home Depot, get a 20, maybe splurge and get a 40, $60 tool belt. Um, I would get something that'll get you through and start saving up for a nice tool belt and then buy a high-end tool belt. It's your number one tool. If you don't have a comfortable tool belt or you don't have a tool belt set up for your needs, you won't wear it. Your production goes down. It's uncomfortable. It just doesn't feel right. So save up for a nice belt. If you think about, say you're going to keep a belt for 10 years and you wear it 5 days a week, do the math on how much that tool belt is costing you every day. It's literally pennies. So save up for a nice belt. You don't have to be the best carpenter in the world to have a nice belt. You could be new to the industry, and it's an investment in yourself, and it's investment in your efficiency and your productivity and everything else. So don't think that just because you're just getting in this industry that a $200-300 belt is not within your reach or you're not worthy of that. You definitely are. Again, it's a solid investment for you. You will wear your belt more. You will be more productive. I cannot speak to the $200-300 hammer. To me, with what I do, I don't use a hammer enough that makes sense. But a tool belt all day long, go spend the money. It'll save your back. You'll be more comfortable. You'll be more efficient, and you will wear it. Which at the end of the day, if you're wearing it, you are more productive and you have everything where you need it. So go check them out. There's a ton of brands out there, a ton of different options. See what works for you. Try something on that somebody else has. If you have questions, I have legitimately tried all the belts, all the brands, the custom brands, the high-end brands. Um, well, most of them. but I have a decent idea as to why I like what I like and what works for me, and that's based on what I do on a daily basis, and how much I need to carry and how much I want to carry every day. So if you have questions specifically about belts or you're thinking about buying a belt, you can reach out to me. Email works, and I will let you know what I think, my suggestions, what's worked for me, what I like, what I don't like. But hopefully, this gives you a little insight as to what I keep in my belt. Again, some things come in, some things come out, but on a day to day basis, generally, this is what I'm carrying in my tool belt. It's not too heavy. It could always be lighter, but this worked for me. I could wear it for 8 hours a day and not have any issues with that. So go get yourself a nice tool belt. If you don't have one, invest in yourself, invest in your business, invest in your brand. Episode 20, blog 20. Check them out on the website, moderncraftsman.co. Super pumped with how this is all going. Super pumped about what's coming ahead with closing on this land and starting the design process for a house. I want to create and generate a lot of content around that. So if you have specific questions about that process or what I'm doing, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. And if it's something that fits the bill or something I'm looking into, if it's some suggestion that you have as to product or system that I should use looking into this, let me know. I will definitely entertain it. Um, I appreciate your insight, expertise, experience. I am not a home builder. I'm a remodeler, so this will be a first for me. So I definitely lean on you guys and girls for advice and your expertise in this field. I'm excited to step outside of my comfort zone and try something new and really expand my knowledge, and what I am able to offer from a career perspective. So, as always, I appreciate all your support, the feedback. Keep spreading the word. If you haven't, hop online and leave us a review. Listen to the standard Modern Craftsman podcast and keep spreading the word. I appreciate it. And I will catch you guys next week on Midweek Modern Craftsman. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good weekend. I'll see you next week.